So, let me tell y'all how I always hear the same excuse when I hear Americans or foreigners in general saying that learning the language of Spanish is difficult. And don't get me wrong, it can be very difficult, and I think sometimes people are just making up a lot of excuses. Now, for me, somebody asked me. No, actually, one of my friends here in Mexico said that, "Oh, yeah, tú hablas muy bueno," and I said I didn't have a choice. Um, just a little backstory: I didn't have a choice because all of my friends don't speak English, and it's more difficult, I guess, or it was a long time of me not being able to understand a lot of stuff. But I looked at it as a learning experience, and I looked at it as like most of the stuff was just repetition, right? And most of it is, I'll be honest, most of it is repetition. Most of it is pretty much you hearing the same thing in a different version. When you understand the tenses, things get a little bit better. But I always like to tell people one thing. I like to give like Mexico and Spain places respect, because let me tell you, I remember when I was in Spain, and I remember the first thing that I asked them. I walked into a place and I said, "Tú hablas inglés?" And the lady said, "Cero," which means, zero. And I'm like, oh, okay. Now, in that mist, I took that as a learning experience. I took that as I could be defeated by the fact that I'm not going to be able to communicate. I'm not going to be able to understand a lot of the communications or a lot of the conversations that's had in front of me oftentimes, right? And instead, I took it as a challenge. So a lot of people find it very weird. Still to this day, I do the same exact thing. I go every day to the market to buy, and I mean like grocery store, whatever you want to call it. I go every single day to buy something. So it could be bananas, apples, whatever it could be. I go every day so that I can always, talk to someone new, learn something new, and get over my fear. And you may be asking, what is your fear? My fear has always been that I would make mistakes. And I remember one time in specific, or specifically, that I went to McDonald's and I got me like, I think it was like a McGriddle or a breakfast sandwich or something like that. And the lady, I'm asking like, I needed to understand how to say jelly. Now I've seen this word a million times. I knew it. I just couldn't remember. So my Spanish teacher taught me to say things like, I was like, oh no, es el sabor. Sabor is fresa, which means the flavor is strawberry. And she's like, maple. I'm like, no quiero maple. Es algo, pero el sabor is de fresa. And she's like, okay. We ended up going with, I think, grape jelly, which is uva. And then before I knew it, I walked out of the McDonald's and I remember saying mermelada. And I said, oh my God. And it was things like that that I learned, that auto-correcting myself and being able to talk around what I actually wanted, but finding the answer at another time was a way of me showing that I'm learning. And now to this day, my Spanish is much better. I can speak without really thinking about it unless it gets really complex. Then I have to like think about what I'm trying to say. And I always look at these experiences as learning experiences. So, for those Americans that love to say, it's difficult, I think that you just haven't immersed yourself enough in the culture. And I think it does take everyday practice. Something that people don't know, I'm like on day 600 of Duolingo, and that actually works. The repetition of putting those words in my brain all the time actually works. 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day. Even though when I'm like on here on TikTok or on YouTube, I'm speaking English, that's the only time during my days, unless I'm speaking to my family in America, that I actually get to speak English. Every other time, it's only Spanish. It's only Spanish conversations, and that's the thing that has made this a lot better. Weirdly enough, I do not get nervous anymore when I speak Spanish, especially when I'm speaking to Uber drivers or for directions or in stores or when I need something. It's only for those people that are very, very close to me, and I'm like, oh, I need to make sure that I'm saying this correct or I'm having problems. So, to the locals that in Mexico, I know some of you want to learn English. I'm totally fine with that. But for me, I have to have the utmost respect for your country. So I would rather speak Spanish in your country. See y'all later.